months into the pandemic, that's what we did. We gave everyone who was a frequent conference user a Zoom Live Pro license. We removed their audio conference capabilities because, attorneys like to fall back to what they know. And even though they had a Zoom, they kept using that one because that's the number they remembered or what their,
they had it
assistant
memorized.
did.
That's why, yeah.
Exactly. So we gave Zoom to everybody. We started using Teams internally. So we have a CSP license with Microsoft. So we don't have like the E5 type of license. So we use Zoom pretty extensively internally for all Zoom type meetings and chats and other things. So that really ramped up. And I see, Zoom's not going away, but if you own 365,
right,
and
you're already paying for it, so
Teams is almost good enough now. There's a couple things that don't work as well, I think, as Zoom overall, but you give another 6 months or whatever, and there's going to be no reason not to use Teams. And our contract we use a hosted VoIP phone provider, and that contract ends in about a year. So we were looking at Zoom Phone. We're looking at, and we'll look at Teams for phone. And certainly if we decide, Teams is a viable option for phones, then there's no reason for us to keep Zoom, and we will just go all in on Teams.
Oh, that was a fantastic segue, because I was going to ask you about IP telephony next, because it seems that these players are trying to do a roll-up in that space, right? What we used to call UCaaS, or Unified Communication.
Yep.
It seems to be taking over video conferencing, chat, even document sharing and IP telephony. I've had people, your peers, say to me, why the hell should I go pay for a PBX with Mitel or ShoreTel or my local, telecom provider, when everyone can do this through Microsoft Teams or Slack? I just don't see a reason why I need to even have a phone internally. So I am curious about that. Zoom is also playing an IP telephony. It is coming down a little bit. Microsoft is in that space. RingCentral, which was doing well, now divorced from Zoom. They used to actually white label. Zoom used to white label RingCentral's technology, but this is an absolute disaster from a data perspective. We're seeing a drop from 40 to single digits. We're trying to wrap our heads around why. But then you think about Zoom acquiring Five9, I really worry about it, the viability of a RingCentral, and it seems like it's really just going to come down to Zoom versus Microsoft in this space. Curious of your thoughts.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So RingCentral was, we use, you have Cisco in there. So we use from a VAR, a vendor. It's built on the BroadSoft platform.
Right.
And I think, Cisco, I think that's where ultimately they're going to end up, is just, here's our BroadSoft platform, do what you want with it. No one's going to have a Cisco phones, the on-prem ones. You're not going to have a Cisco hosted VoIP system, I think, at some point, because they'll be happy to have you, all the vendors running things on the back end, and you can sort of do with it what you want. Similar to like Android, for example, where Google gives it to you, but AT&T does their thing with it, Verizon does their thing to it. You decide what's best for you, but bottom line is, behind the scenes, there's licensing involved, and, and they're getting paid. So I think Microsoft, as they figure out Teams, I think that for the same reason, with conferencing is, if it does what you want, then it's going to be good enough. And Zoom, I think those are going to be the big two in that area. With both of those, I think, it started moving this way, but, the days of needing a handset at your desk are gone. So, I've been at my firm 3.5 years, give or take, and probably a year and a half before that, maybe 2 years, is when they put in the hosted VoIP that we have. And, we purchased at the time, headsets for everybody. Handsets for everybody. But, so everyone has a phone at their desk. But what we got during COVID was, all right, you got a soft phone. There was always a soft phone available, but now people have a soft phone on their phone and they have one on their computer. They're used to using that one because they had to use it at home for a year and a half, and, still counting for some people. So they're used to not having a handset. They're used to having AirPods, Bluetooth, Bose, noise canceling, whatever kind of headset you want. Hell, they even make a USB a wireless headset that looks like a phone, like it's like a cordless phone, but it's just Bluetooth. Yep. So we have some people who have that. So the requirement that, oh, I have to have a phone is, gone away. Because even if people say I need one, I got to have one, you can say, well, you haven't had one in a year and a half. There's no argument to that. With us, I think, and so that offsets the big cost of some of these. So if you're moving from a ShoreTel or MyTel on-prem or Cisco, and you're moving to any of the online ones, unless it's a very new phone or you bought Polycom's, specific models, you're going to have a big expense of either a purchase or a lease to get the phones. So now you look at, okay, I'm paying X amount for maintenance and support and for, SIP trunking and everything else, and a phone cost. Well, if I go to Zoom or I go to Teams and I'm Slack, just using the, the client that comes with it, guess what? Now I don't have to spend all that, what was, could be $400 or $500 per handset to do that, which makes the migrate for us. It's not really an issue because we already have Polycom phones, so we're kind of ahead of the game, and we could keep our phones, but we don't have to. But for everybody else, that's a huge part of the expense that just goes away. And now you're just, exporting to the cloud and running with it, and full disaster recovery and, mobility built in.